Those of you that are new to this room, that's a pleasant reminder that the door needs to be closed. All right, everybody's here. Let's get started. So welcome everyone to AR/VR design and development, otherwise known as DXR, just because that's such a long thing to say. I am James Mahoney, and I will be your teacher this class. I'm very excited about that. We have really, really great TAs. We just got a new one. So we have 3 TAs now. Emily Hopkinson, stand up. Yay. Hattie, what's your last name? Nabs? Debs. Hattie. Yay. And Nate Branscombe. Nate Branscombe, he won't be here in class. He's going to be here. He'll have office hours, and we'll go over that in a little bit. But he's also great. He's a little bit more on the code side. Emily does both. Hattie, would you say you're more on the code side? Yeah, more on the code side. And so these two are going to be here in class to help you guys. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. And I am not joking when I tell you that going to spend time with the TAs is part of the class. You will learn so much more if you spend time with the TAs. They know a lot. They've built a lot of projects. They have a lot of experience. They're handpicked because they're really, really good at this, okay? So avail yourself of that. So in general, the high-level goals are for this class. This is an introductory class. So we don't really expect you guys to know how to do any of this stuff yet, although there are prerequisites. The coders need to know how to code. I'm not going to teach you how to code. You should already know that. You've taken CS10. And the designers should know how to model. They should be comfortable with Maya because they've taken CS22. If you're currently taking CS22, that's okay, because by the time you're really doing a lot of modeling in this class, you'll be past the early stages of CS22, and it'll all be fresh in your mind, and you'll be doing a great job. So we really want everybody to learn the basics. And at the end of this class, everybody knows how to build these kinds of things, build your own XR experiences. But also, I really like this class, and I designed it specifically so that, because I think it's really interesting that you have half of you are designers and half of you are coders, and you learn how to work together. And it's my experience in all the places I've worked. Some teams work well, some teams don't work so well. And the teams that work well are the ones where the coders kind of understand the designers and feel their pain. And likewise, the designers understand what the coders are trying to do and what they care about, and they try to help them. And those teams really do well. Those are the teams that really create amazing things. And so I think getting practice at it, because a lot of times, you kind of speak in different languages, and you need to learn how to work together with people that are different than you. The other thing is that we'd like you to come away from this class with a portfolio, have some stuff that you can show. So if you have an interview, you're at Meta, maybe you want to do some of this kind of work, you have some things you can say, hey, I worked on this project, and this is what I did on this project. And hopefully that might help you get jobs or get into grad school or other programs somewhere else. And then also, it's fun. I think this class is really fun. I love teaching this class. We have so much fun. The projects are great. I'll show you some more in a little bit, and you'll get a sense of what other students have done. I think it's really fun. So here's kind of the problem. It's also, I guess, part of the fun is that there's so much to learn. It's like ridiculous. I sit there and I make these lists. This is like half of it. There's so much to cram in, and we really only have 9 weeks, right? Last week you're doing demonstrations and stuff. So you have 9 weeks to cram so much stuff in, and that's really the challenge as a teacher. How can we manage this class? So in the past, this is what we did. In the past, when I first started, I've taught the class. Spring 2019 was the first time I taught it, and I've taught it 8 times since then, and it's changed a lot. And when we first taught it, we had the Oculus Go. I don't know if you guys remember that. Only 3 degrees of freedom, and 1 controller. And at that point, I didn't teach Unity. I taught Unity while you were learning AR and VR. And I quickly realized, actually, Unity's the big thing. You have to learn Unity. If you don't know Unity, or some other game engine, you can't really do the other stuff. So I started having a big section at the beginning where we just focus on Unity, right? And you learn Unity, and then we start adding in all the other stuff. And I think that is the right approach. We had a very short, because of that, we had a very short AR section, pretty short VR section. And then we had the final project where you would spend a lot of time, try to give you 3 weeks on the final project. But there's so much material that it keeps getting pushed out and pushed out. The Unity section sometimes would bleed into the 5th week. The AR section would get kind of crunched. And then the VR would go into the 3 weeks. And then you don't have a lot of time for your finals. There was also, there were a lot of assignments, right? A ton of assignments, lots of different things. You did basics, you did all these different things, some in teams, some individuals. And the designers and coders work together. And I really like this. But in this time, at that time, designers and coders were basically, you're in the same class. So when I would give lectures, it was to both. So the designers would hear what the coders are struggling with, and the coders would hear what the designers are struggling with. And I kind of like that. I think that's part of it. And I've had several students come back to me and say, I didn't think I wanted to be a coder, but I did a little coding in your class and I thought it was really fun. Now I'm taking CS10. And, and I love that. I think that's great. And vice versa. Some people, coders are like, wow, Maya is really interesting. I want to go take CS22 now. And I think that's a good thing. However, there's a problem. And the problem is that, one of the nice things about teaching this class is it changes a lot. I have to keep learning new things, and I like learning new things, so I don't mind. But we're kind of at a watershed right now. There's some really significant new technologies that are just coming out, and they're in the future. And so in order to update the class, I have to address these things. There's a new first person, it's not that new, but we were using an old first person and third person character controller because it was easy. It was easier to use. You could set it up quick. It always worked, but it's getting kind of old now. And I have to update to this newer one. The newer one's harder. It's a little bit more complicated. It's a little trickier, not a lot. Everyone will have no problem with that. The real thing that was really pushing me to redesign the class is the XR interaction toolkit. And this is a VR. This is for VR. And this is made by Unity. And here's the deal. We used to use something that was made from Meta. It used to be Oculus, right? The Oculus player controller, right? And it only would work on the Oculus device. And it was really great. It was pretty easy to set up. Designers could do it, coders could do it. And you could set it up and you could navigate. And you could do VR like that. Boom. But it only worked on that device. So Unity has this wrapper, an abstraction layer that sits above it that allows you to write your Unity stuff and use it for anywhere, right? So it's an abstract layer. And I've been around the block. I'm an old guy. And every time someone's tried to make an abstract layer that abstracts out these things, it's always been really bad because it just doesn't work. It's just things sometimes just don't map. It's like materials. Materials in Maya don't always map to Blender or to Unity, right? It's because they're just fundamentally different, and it's really hard to get things to work. Unity's particularly good at this. They have really good coders, really good engineers. They engineer the hell out of this thing, and it's actually really, really good. Problem is, it's much more complicated than the stuff we were using before, right? So, but it's where the future is. It's where everybody, if you want to be good at this, you have to learn that. I cannot, every term I would test it out, and there was like just bugs, and it wasn't good, and it was too complicated. I couldn't imagine it ushering an entire class through it. People would not have a good time. So, but I can't ignore it any longer. There's also, we need to prepare this class for the Meta Quest 3, which is the new Quest 3 that's coming out, so things will be quite different. And then, of course, looking down the pipe to Apple Vision Pro coming out next year. So that the problem is, what do I do? It's how do I handle this when it's going to be difficult to have everybody in the same lecture? What's the solution? So the solution is to partially flip this class. Right? You guys have been in a flipped class before, you know what I'm talking about? Everybody, yeah. So a lot of it will be lectures, will be videos, and then that way it allows me to say, look, these videos are for the coders, and these videos are for the designers, and these videos are for everybody. So there'll be all class videos, there'll be coder videos, there'll be designer videos, but there'll also be some live lectures, and we'll use this for discussion, things like that, right? And I'll try to fill in, the videos are really supplementary. And instead of a lot of assignments, what we'll do is you'll come in and you'll work together on in-class projects, right? And I've done this in some of my other classes and it works great. So that's been my solution. Anybody have any questions about that? Does it sound good? Yeah, cool. It's one of those things. So I've been thinking all summer about how to do this, and I'm struggling with it, and just redesigning the class, redesigning, struggling, talking to the TAs, trying to figure out how to make this work. And I think this is the right thing to do. But it's one of those things, you guys probably have had this in your life, where you come up with this idea and you say, then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? Now I have to create all those videos. And so I'm working my ass off trying to create these videos for you guys. So they're going to be a little bit rough around the edges, and I'm going to be polishing them throughout the term, actually probably for the next year. But I think it's the right way to go. All right, so let's take a look at the syllabus. Okay, so if you take a look at the syllabus, everybody should have access to this. This is where everything happens. This is a living document. You're going to need, don't bother copying it or printing it out because I keep changing it. But if you need anything, it's going to be in the syllabus, right? And I just like to, point out a couple things. My office is right up here. I have an email and a Gmail. You can use either. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. That'd be great. Because when you guys leave, sometimes I've had students tell me that their Dartmouth email didn't work, supposed to forward email and it got broken somehow. So anyway, if we're connected on LinkedIn, if you're looking for a job or someone's looking for a job, I can contact you. I do a thing called Cough with the Prof. And it's Wednesday mornings, not tomorrow, but it's around 9:30ish. I'll get a coffee here and I'll sit out here. If you want to just join me in chat, that would be fun. Happy to do that. I also have office hours. If you click on this Calendly link, I think you should just plan to do that once this term. Just meet me, tell me what you're about, who you are, get to know each other a little bit. It'd be great. And let's see. And then the TA hours, the X hours, we will be using the X hours. I think, that's a really tough time for me. It's really late in the day. I'm pretty tired. Some of these will be on Zoom, all right? And we'll have some guest lectures and all kinds of fun stuff. So I only have Emily and Nathan here. I'll add Hattie as well, but you have access to them, and we'll put their office hours when we have them ready. We do have a Zoom link if you're. I'm not going to Zoom. I've recorded Zoom lectures before, and I'm recording today just in case there's someone who joins the class late. They can catch it. But in general, I don't really like recording because I don't like being stuck here. I like to wander around the room and talk and interact and all that. So I don't think there's necessarily a need for it in this new version of the class. There's some good references up here. The course know-how, we'll talk about that in a minute. This is what students have done. If you're going to do something, click on that and see if maybe a previous student has written out a formula for how you can actually do the same thing. And we're going to look at some student work in a little while. And these are just industry news that I find really good. Helps keep abreast. Everything's changing really fast. Mixed and upload VR. And then there's the class schedule. This is kind of new. So I really like this. This is really a good way. You can't count on these things over here being exactly, I move things around, I adjust things based on how fast we're moving. Sometimes just based on what, sometimes I have my lecture all planned out, and then an hour before I get here, I'm like, oh no, let's do something. I do something else. So I can't help myself sometimes. But anyway, you'll see right here, these are the videos, and they're supposed to be due. So you're supposed to by by Thursday. So I'm going to try to get these to you tomorrow. They're not very long, about 15 minutes. And you should just watch them before class on Thursday, if I can get them done. And then we have 2 longer ones, one for design and one for development. So this is really, and I'll put the links in here, so you'll always know what the schedule is. You'll be able to find the links. And then, so the first in-class project this week will be different than every other week. This week, it'll be more like the way I used to teach it. We'll do a lot of hands-on stuff. I'll kind of walk you through some of the early beginning stages. You get your feet wet on how this stuff works. But starting next week, on next Tuesday, we're going to start, I'm going to pair you up, right? And I'm not exactly sure if the pairs are going to always be changing or just stick with the same partner for a little while. I'm going to pair you up and give you an assignment in class. And I'll give you a little heads up about what it is, but it should be fun. So the designer will be making some assets, and the coders will be doing some interactivity, and hopefully it'll be really fun. And then at the end of the class, we'll share it with each other, and I'll try to keep them small. It's going to take a little while to figure out how best to do that kind of stuff. So then you just have a few projects that are due. You have, again, I simplified the class a lot in terms of, by flipping it, I'm adding some content. I'm going deeper on coding, deeper on design. And in exchange for that, I'm eliminating a lot of the other projects. So there's really just a few. So tomorrow the Unity project will go out. This is going to be solo, right? So this is just an opportunity for you to just show us what what you've been able to learn about Unity so far. I'm pretty flexible. You can almost do anything, right? And that'll be due here, right? So you can just see on the spreadsheet where things go. And so then at this date, you're going to get some VR gear. Those will be Oculus Quest 2s or Meta Quest 2s. And I hope we have enough for everybody. We'll see. I'm hesitant to buy them because we're going to be buying Quest 3s soon. So I hate to buy old technology, but I will if I have to. And you can also, it's not so bad. When we first taught the class, they were all shared. So this will be your first, there will be a VR project team of 2 or 3. And then again, to try to keep things simpler, we're going to do, then right after the VR project's done, we're gonna go right to the final project. So hopefully that'll be in week 5. That'll give you 5 weeks to do your final project. Right? That's a long time. Never had that much time. But one of the only complaints I get about this class, it usually gets a very high rating. The only complaints I get are not enough time for the big projects, right? Because they're just trying to pack too much in. And then the other one is sometimes the designers say, I didn't want to do all that coding. And sometimes the coder says, I don't want to make a pretty, beautiful scene. I don't care about that. Right. So this class will address all of those issues, right? So the final project, you have the first thing is your pitches. You'll come in, we'll just make some pitches. You can pitch as many things as you want. We'll create a big document. You guys will rate 1, 2, and 3, which ones you want. You can do an augmented reality or a virtual reality final project. If you want to team up with some friends, don't do it because you won't be friends by the end. That was a joke. I'm only kidding. Friends often do projects together. Like, for instance, if you really want to do an augmented reality, most people choose a virtual reality project. Not really sure why. But if you choose an augmented reality and you find someone else who wants to do an augmented, and you got a designer and a coder, and you just have an idea that you really want to do, just let me know. We're very flexible. We want you to love this class. I want this to be the best class you've taken at Dartmouth. And if it's not, talk to me and we'll see what we can do to make it better. So one of the sacrifices I had to make to try to simplify it is, I think we're going to do this year is we're going to do the AR projects in class. So you're going to do you're going to have a teammate, and you're going to work on augmented reality in class. And we used to do the augmented reality was done with a phone or an iPad, and hold it up and you see something, or an image on the wall, you hold it up and it looks like a crack in the wall. You can see really, that stuff is cool, but that was really cool 3 years ago. It's a little less cool today. And really trying to prepare for, the new headsets with pass-through. The Oculus Quest 2 has pass-through. It just doesn't look very good. It's black and white and kind of grainy. But the technology will work. If you can do it on the Quest 2, when the Quest 3 comes out, it should run on that and be just better, right? And then with the Apple, you'll be starting to grapple with the issues for how do you do this stuff, and a lot of it really isn't just the technology. It's what is it? What do we do? The other feedback I get from this class is when I first started doing it, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of, we talk about the sociological impact of things, especially things like augmented reality. We talked a little bit about the philosophy and history and all those things. And students would come back and say, those are really fun lectures and great discussions, but I just want to spend more time knowing how to make things. So the classes keep getting pushed a little more, but I will not let go of that stuff. I think it's important. So we will have a couple of classes with discussions and stuff like that. Whew, I've been talking a lot. So yeah, your final project could be bigger teams, could be teams of 4, maybe even 5 sometimes. And we come up with a handful of projects that you guys will be working on. And then you'll present that at Technogala. Technogala is part of the class. Anybody not know what Technogala is? Technogala it's from it started with the Dali Lab. And at the end of every term, we do this. It's like a science fair. We're all out here in the lobby. Everyone's showing their projects. So you guys will be responsible for showing your final project out here in the lobby. And get hundreds of people come, people from all over campus, people that aren't even students come. It's really fun. There's food and drinks, and it's a party atmosphere. And I go to it every year, and I haven't gotten COVID yet. Fingers crossed. Did I forget anything? Oh, the know-how. Yeah, I forgot that because it's not such a bright purple. That's the problem. This one here, know-how. Know-how link. This is a project where, again, because this subject is so vast and we can't fit it all into 9 weeks, I want you to find the thing that you are interested in. It might, everybody has a different idea. It might be, figuring out how to use AI in Unity. It might be creating a really sophisticated non-player character, an NPC. It might be, it's whatever you want to do. And so it's an opportunity for you to have this one assignment where you're going to be doing your own thing. And I'll show you that in a minute. You can see what other students have done. Let me just, can't really see these. So these are what the other students have done. So you want to look through here and see what people have done and see if there's anything that's interesting to you. It's best if you do something that maybe hasn't been done. This was what Nate did. This is a nice one. So this is really just, we call them know-hows. Sometimes you might say, some people have done 2 know-hows because they just want to do it. And it's okay. I understand you're going, you're not inventing anything. You're going on the internet. You're finding a tutorial on YouTube, but you're implementing it yourself so that you don't really understand it. And then you're writing down something, but you have to credit everything that you've done. So this is on using an algorithm called Boyd's, and it's for flocking behavior. And he's moving the cursor around. He's moving one of them around, and then the little arrows like fish will flock. It's pretty cool, right? And he talks all about how it works, gives you the code, setup. They don't all have to be this big. This is kind of a long one. Any questions about that? So here's the problem. When should this be due? I've struggled with this forever. I've tried putting it at the end, and then students are like, I can't do it now. I'm working on my final project. This is a perfect thing. Like, pick something that you're going to use for your final project or your VR project, something that you need to figure out to do your project, right? Like this guy, Will, he needed this for a project. They did an underwater scuba diving experience in VR. So he needed to figure this out. Perfect thing for know-how, right? So I've tried having it due at different times, but it interferes with whatever's due. So I'm trying a new thing this term, and you'll see in the spreadsheet that starting in week 4, so you have some time, starting in week 4, we're going to do know-how presentations. You guys are going to present during the X hour, and we'll do 3 or 4, depending on how many we have, and how much time we have, how fast we can get through them. So it'll be 3 or 4, and I'll just randomize, when your date is. And so then what's cool about that is that you'll be learning a lot more of what is interesting to your peers. Fun, right? Okay. Any questions? Okay, I have one thing I need you to do. In order for yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a good question. So what we've done before, and I'm inclined to do it again. So the fact that I'm redesigning this class, it's good and bad. The bad part is there's going to be some rough edges. Okay, just cut me a little slack. Be kind. Okay, we're trying to, it's a very complicated class to administer, right? You got to appreciate that. But the good thing is, it's flexible. So I want to hear from you. If you're like, I don't want to do this final thing. So the final project, what we've done before. Emily, do you think this final project was a good thing? I think people liked it. Okay. So the final project was is fun. What we did was the final project, your final exam is done over Zoom, and you get 5 minutes. It's an interview with a fake interview. You pretend that you are interviewing for an XR job at a company you really want to work for, and you're showing your portfolio of stuff that you've done in this class, and you're showing it, but you're not saying, well, then we had this project. No, you have to pretend I don't know what you're doing, that I'm somebody at Meta, and you want the job, and you're trying to pitch to them, because it's good practice, and it's really good practice. Also, it's a really good idea to be able to take the work that you've done. You will have done a lot of work by the time you get there. And how do you cherry pick it? And how do you frame it in a way? How do you tell a story around it? Right? And it's a really good skill. And it's a good skill to get used to doing this over Zoom. I think it's a great thing. If everybody says, oh, we're toast, we spent all of our gas on the final project, please no. If that, the vast majority, let's say 2/3 majority, go there, maybe we won't do it. I think it's a really useful thing. I think people have benefited from it. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be out in time for us to use that, unfortunately. If you really like this stuff, I would recommend buying the Quest 3. It's going to be the device for a while, and for the next 3-4 years, it's going to be the target device. And if you really like doing it, it's fun to have it. It's fun games. It's fun stuff to do. And if you want to buy it and use your own in this class, totally okay. You'll be a step ahead in terms of some of the stuff that you can do. Door's not quite closed. Yeah, you'll get used to that. Not really. I never get used to it. That was a good question. I just don't think I can count on getting them here and ready. And we have to make sure that all of our test stuff works with it. So I don't think we would be able to get that done in time. Yeah, good question. Any other questions? Okay, so this class uses we use Discord a lot. I mean, I'm on it almost 24/7. You might hear from me at midnight, right, Emily? Right, Hattie, right? And you can ask me questions when I'm sleeping. I turn it off so you don't have to worry about waking me up. I recommend the same for you. But I really want to make sure that you guys are all using it and are there. Does everybody have that set up? Okay, great. So I want you to do this is a little test. Okay. I want everybody in the class right now. This is one of the ways I'm going to know that you were here. Inside the syllabus. The syllabus is going to get really big. It doesn't have a lot of stuff in there now. I keep adding links and all kinds of stuff. It's going to get really big. So I want to make sure you know how to do this. Find the word magic. Command F. And you got to do this quickly. Don't share it with anybody. This is a secret. Find the word magic in the syllabus and then direct message me in Discord what the word is. That way I know you know how to find something in the syllabus. I know that you know how to direct message me on Discord and that you're part of the channel. Actually, I guess it doesn't technically show me that you're on the channel. What did you say? Oh, don't send it in the general thing. Direct message me. Whoever sent it in the general thing, please delete it. Or actually, Emily, you can delete it. You have admin privs. And why is it beeping? I don't even have that open. Oh, yes, I do. All right, great. I'm seeing everybody's doing that. All right, so this is where we are. Find the magic word. DM me on Discord what it is. I love that exercise. It's so simple and it just really confirms to me that you know how to do all this stuff. And if you have a problem with it, talk to the TAs or let me know. And sorry about having to use Discord. I know how many social media things can you track. One more thing you have to do, but I've been finding over the years that more and more students are actually using Discord anyway. So I think it's so much better than Slack, and it works so much better for a class, I find. I hope you will find so too. All right, so I mentioned office hours, coffee with the prof. The other thing that's fantastic about Dartmouth has this thing called take your professor to lunch. You guys know about that? Have you done that? Everybody done that? I am more than happy to go have lunch with you. More than happy. And Dartmouth pays for it. It just goes to prove that there really is such a thing as a free lunch. So anyway, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to talk to you. I won't probably tell you too much about my background or my stories. Every now and then I digress, but I'm happy to tell you about my background, some of the places I've worked, some of the things I've done. The other thing, health and well-being. There's some information in the syllabus. I know that Dartmouth is high pressure. You guys are under a lot of pressure. It gets really hard. And if you're having trouble in any way, reach out to me and just, make sure you take care of yourself. We really care. We want you to not have problems. We want you to be happy and learn a lot. And the last thing we want is you to just be struggling if you're having any feelings of depression or anxiety beyond, I mean, school has anxiety, but if it's more than a little, there's a lot of services. You can reach out to me or the TAs, and we can help put you in touch with services. Okay. Grades. Oh, yeah. So here's the thing. Come on, not even a chuckle. You guys are not a fun crowd. There you go. You laughed at that. Okay. We talked about, so in the syllabus, I put a bunch of links to interesting stuff. I'm not going to go over those links. It's up to you to go and see what's out there. I think pretty hard about what to put in there and what not to. If you find something really cool, either share it on Discord or let me know. Maybe I'll put it in there. I'll also put any assets. So like today, there's a couple of assets that we might be using. If I can ever stop talking, we can get to it. So those assets will be in there. I'll put lecture notes. The assignments will be in there. And remember, it's a living document. It's going to be constantly changing. The other thing to do besides Discord is Google Drive. In the Google Drive, we have every week, I'll have a folder. You just put your stuff in there and you do your assignments. I'll have links to assignments. I want everybody to remember this, though. Everything you do in the Google Drive is recorded. I hate to bring this up. I had a student who went in there and copied someone else's program. This was a programming class I taught 8 years ago. They copied someone else's program and changed a few things, but it's all like recorded right there in Discord. I mean, in Google Drive. It's like, oh, that person was expelled. So the honor code, I hate to tell you this, I am bound by the honor code. I am told over and over again that I don't have a choice. If I catch you cheating, doing something you're not supposed to be doing, I have to report it. I can't, I've talked to the dean. I'm like, that's, one time I'll talk to them. They're a great student. Like, you don't have a choice. I hate that. And it's not fun. It's not fun for anybody. So don't. If you ever think like, so in this class, we're very flexible on this. You can, if you can figure out how to get ChatGPT to write your code, I'm okay with that. Just make sure you tell me that you did it. ChatGPT writes all my lectures. No, it doesn't. Maybe someday. And you're welcome to scavenge artwork. You can scavenge stuff. You just have to be explicit. So when you submit something, there'll be a document. You say, I scavenged this, 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 and this. And then more importantly, tell me what you made. I mean, don't just be a scavenger. I mean, if you're a coder and you scavenge stuff for your solo assignment, that's okay. But if you're a designer, you can't scavenge it. You scavenge all the regular stuff, and then you pick a few things you really do a nice job on to show that you know how to do it. Okay? Is that fair? But if you're not sure, if you're ever thinking, I'm not sure, is this cheating? Just talk to me or talk to the TAs. We'll start, don't make that mistake. That would be horrible. Okay, grading. All of your assignments, almost all of your assignments will have an art component and a tech component. And the grading is usually a combination of both, right? And this is important because I want to make sure that when you're working in a team, I want to make sure that the coders are saying, I have to help. I have to help my designer make a good design. And what that means is don't do all the animation in code, right? Because you're not probably a good animator, or you may be, but if you're not, find ways to make it so that the designer can do the animation, right? And if you're a designer, right, don't hand the coder all your assets the night before it's due, because it's really complicated to get everything working, right? So you have to help each other, you have to work together. This is a core, really, really core thing in this class, okay? Everybody get that? Okay. So I made a video just this morning. That summarizes the class. I think it pretty much sums it all up. I hope I have audio. Let me check this. It's not coming out. Start with this. This one? Can you hear that? Emily. Are you guys hearing that? I can't tell. The speakers in here. I never. Sounds a little. Okay. All right. This is the class. I made that this morning. It's good cracking. Oh, thank you. You're too kind. I did just do it for your entertainment. Okay. All right. Finally, let's get to some fun stuff, everybody. On your machines, open up Unity Hub. Unity Hub has the icon that looks something like this. So we still have an hour, right? Huh? So we're gonna get our feet wet today. So this again, this week is gonna be a little different. This is more like how, well, we'll probably do a lot of this too. But this is how the class is more typically run, a little bit more like CS22. Well, I'll sit up here and walk you through, and then you'll have time to do stuff. The key thing to make this work is that when I'm showing you something, that you pay attention. I know, like, you're trying to do something, but then what happens is you miss it, and then you're like, wait, where was that button? And I'll go, then I have to, back up, and it delays the class. Nate's coming in, the other TA. Emily, can you let Nate in? He's just going to say hi, just so you know what he looks like. And here's Nate. Hi, Nate. So Nate is the other TA. So there'll be 3 TAs. I don't know if you guys know. You know Emily and Hattie? Yep. Do you know Hattie? Hattie's also going to be a TA. Hattie will be here in the classroom. Nate has another class at this time, which he's playing hooky from right now, just to come here so you can know what he looks like. So when you see him here in this class, he's here to help you. All right. And he'll have some office hours, and we'll add that to the script. And really appreciate you coming by so that they can see what you look like. Yeah. Do you have to go to your other class now? Oh, awesome. Great. Slacker teacher. All right. So this is a little bit more like how the class runs. I'm just going to walk you through it. Try to pay attention when I'm doing it. I'll try to give you enough time to do your own thing. So this is the Unity Hub. This is what you use to launch to launch projects from. It will look like this. You'll have your projects down here. You should. This is once they install a new Unity Hub. This happens like once a week, probably. You also have your installs. This is, if you click on installs, it shows you what Unity installs you have. If you're installing this on your home machine, you want to pay a lot of attention to this. Unity is very, very version sensitive. So 2022.3. The last number, not so much of a difference between 7, 8, 9, whatever. but 2022.3, and LTS means long-term support, which means these are going to be more stable. Unity does crash, not like as often as Maya, but it does crash sometimes. But the LTS ones are probably the best. So if you hit the install editor, you can come up here and you can install different versions of it. All right, so mostly what you're going to be doing is coming here, you're just going to say, you can open a project. You say open project, it'll open anything that is an official structured like a Unity project. You can open anything. So if your friend hands you a project, you download something, that's how you would do it. And you create a new project, hit the new project button. You have a bunch of templates, and these are options. We're going to keep it pretty simple. We're going to be using the universal render pipeline. So when you see URP, that's your friend. It's newer. It used to be called a lightweight render pipeline, and nobody wanted to use it. And they realized it was really bad marketing. They changed it to universal render pipeline. Again, this is another wrapper. It should run on any device. It's highly optimized, and this is where Unity's putting a lot of their energy. So you want to always look for universal render pipeline, or almost always. And so then you want to come down here and you want to give your project a name, and you want to put it in a location, right? So it's all pretty straightforward. So here's the thing about working on these machines. Unfortunately, you really can't count on everything being here on these machines. We use them for several classes. Sometimes we have to reinstall. We have to, re-image the hard drive. I wouldn't worry about it too much all the time, but it would be a good practice. And Emily's going to talk to you tomorrow, I guess, about good practices for working here, working in teams, and working in this room. But try to keep it neat. When you leave, please don't leave Unity running. It's a memory hog, and other students might not even know it's running. And then they're going to be like, why is my rendering taking so long? Right? Okay. So just as a kindness, always shut down Unity, right? Save your stuff, shut down Unity. And when you store stuff, like right now, when you store this project you're going to do today, don't put it on the desktop. Create a folder. You put a folder on the desktop that says DXR, or it has your name or whatever, and then put all your stuff in there. So just organize, just like everything. Okay. So why doesn't everybody do that? Create use this one, 3D sample scene URP. Create project and give it a name, call it whatever you want, create project. So I think it comes up with the sample scene. All right, does everybody have scene? All right, so just let me talk for just a minute. I'm just going to give you a quick overview. How many here know Unity? 1, 2? Only 2, okay. So I'm going to assume you don't know Unity. Those of you that do, I don't know, chill. So Unity, there's several panels that are the most common ones. There's 5 of them. There's the scene panel right here, which is where you do all of your work. This is where the stuff is. You have the game panel. You can move these around. I'll explain that in a minute. There's the game panel. There's the project panel. The game panel is what you're seeing when you're running it. You can run it from up here. You hit this button here, it'll play, and it will run your program, play your game. You also have the project folder, and this actually reflects the project exactly, how it sits in your. Let me see. For instance, if I just do this, this folder structure here exactly maps to this folder structure here. And what's nice about this, unlike other game engines like the Unreal Engine, you can just move stuff around. Like you can just go into your operating system, rename things, move stuff. Unity, I've never had a crash from that. Unlike Unreal, which crashes all the time if you do that. But anyway, so that's the project panel. This is where all your stuff is. It's not necessarily in the game. It's not necessarily part of it yet. That would be in your hierarchies. The hierarchy is everything that's in your game that you're currently using as part of your game. And then when you select on something over here, you'll see that there's an inspector window over here. And when you click on something, let's get down. You'll see the inspector. These are the things that you're going to be changing and modifying to change the behavior and the look of the things that are in your game. Right, so that's what you're doing that all the time. You're selecting things here and seeing it here, or you can select on it directly in the scene, and it will show up on the inspector. You can drag these windows around. You can move them and dock them. I really like this layout because you're often dragging things from the hierarchy into slots that are in. Let's see if I can find one. Sometimes there are slots in here like this. This would be a slot, and I'll be dragging something from here into that slot. So I don't like having it be all the way across the interface. I just like it handy. And also from here, your assets, you're always dragging things from here into there. Okay. So this layout is the way I like it. There's a couple of extra windows I'm just going to show you. There's two that you use a lot. It's this one, the lighting one. You get to that one with here. It's rendering, lighting. And that's that one. And I dock that next to the inspector. And then here's the console. The console is where you get output from your programs, from your software. So all of your scripts, you can debug.log and it will write on here. Or if there's a compiling error or a runtime error, it shows up in here. Right. And so those are the main windows. And you'll be familiar with all of these really, really shortly. Okay, so if you have a layout that you like, you can come up to Window, Layouts, and you can create your own, save layout. So I've created mine, Mahoney, and when I come in, if I have a new version of Unity, I just hit that, and I have it set up the way I like it. Yeah, that's always the way in this class. Don't sit there, don't sit idle. If I'm not talking and we're doing something and maybe you're waiting for other students to catch up, just explore, make stuff, create something, do something, keep yourself busy, right? There's always so much to learn, right? And if you're stuck, you're having any kind of problem, raise your hand and the TAs will come down over and help you. Okay? Okay, I'm going to show you how to navigate. This is something that you're doing a lot. I'll make this window just a little bigger so you can maybe see it a little better. Oh, so in the syllabus, if you look in the syllabus, there's a set of notes for today, lecture notes. Lecture week 1 notes. This was typed up by this was typed in by TA one time. So this was just a lecture that I was giving at that time. It's changed a bit, but if you do a search again, Control or Command F on any topic, you should be able to find stuff in here. But basically, I think you should be able to follow me directly and not need that. But if you get lost, that might help you. You have a question? Yeah. Hattie's going to help you. Yeah, it's really tough to do this on a laptop unless it's a gaming laptop. Yes. It's the GPU that makes the difference. So all the machines in here are super fast, especially those the PCs in here are screaming monsters. Screaming monsters. Lots of RAM. It's got I think we put a 3080 Ti, NVIDIA 3080 Ti graphics card in there. I mean, they're really, really good. Don't let me catch you playing games. Yes. Right. So yeah, so that's a good question. So when you're working in Unity, right, it's a project-based thing. So this is your project. You created your own project, and you come up here, you have save. You can save the project, which saves everything, all the settings, everything. And then you have save scene. It's a scene-based thing, but it's a project. It's like it's got all these files. Did you take CS22, the modeling class? CS22? Are you taking this in 63? Okay, so you're a coder. So you've taken CS10. All right, sorry. We can talk. We can talk later. This class is two. It has two parts. You're either a coder, which is six. You're taking it as 63, or are you a grad student? So what are you enrolled in? Are you 23, 63, or 123? Do you know? All right, it's okay. We'll talk about it another time. But if you know Maya, it's similar to that. It's a project-based thing. We'll talk more about how to work on it. What's that? Okay, great. So it's just like Maya. It says, you have a scene in Maya, right? You can save your scenes in Maya. You save your scenes here, and you've got this hierarchy of all these files and folders that this application sets up on your hard drive. It's on your hard drive. Yes, it is. You could use an external hard drive. People do that. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I wonder. I'd be curious to try that. Like I said, right now we're just getting our feet wet. Emily's going to go over like those kinds of logistics tomorrow. So I think that'll be, so come with questions tomorrow. And also on Discord. We can help you on Discord. Yeah, sure. Okay. So let me just show you how to navigate this. I want everybody's attention, okay? So you really, really, really have to use a 3-button mouse. You cannot do this with a trackpad. Please do not use a trackpad, or you will not be learning how to do this the way professionals really do this, okay? You can't do it with a trackpad. You need a mouse. So we have extra mice over there. Plug a mouse into your laptop, and you need a 3-button mouse. And I'll explain why in a minute. So here's the way it works. If you hold down the Alt key and your left mouse button, you can rotate around. All right. So and if I hold down the Alt key and I right mouse button, I can go zoom in and out. If I hold down the Alt key and middle mouse button, I can pan. Okay. So the orbit one is the one that's maybe a little tricky, because what am I orbiting around, right? It's not just it's some point in space, right? So you need to be able to set that. So for instance, I can pick this. If I click on the button, you can direct click on anything with a mouse click. And you can see what you've clicked on. It'll show up in your hierarchy panel that I've clicked on this group of props. If I click again, it'll select just that bucket. Okay. So this is just like Maya, everybody, you guys, but for the coders that you've never seen this before, hit the letter F. The letter F will create the bucket as now my center. So now when I rotate, I'm rotating around the bucket. Really, really, really important, okay? And I can zoom in, that remains my center. All right, everybody's attention. This is a really good trick, okay? You can make anything your center if you just middle mouse button click anywhere. Now I'm rotating around that point. And that's great because you can go in, like I can say, oh, hey, there's some weird artifact over here. What is that? And I just middle mouse click right there, zoom in. I say, oh yeah, that shadow's not quite right. I know what that is. I need to adjust the bias. All right, we'll get to that another day. Okay, so that's navigating. So just everybody do that for a little bit. I want you to do, there's three things. One, just pan around, orbit around, zoom in and out, pan, and select something, hit F to make that your center, and then pick some random place where you use the middle mouse button and you click to make that your center. So all of you Maya people are going, oh my God, it's doing that in real time on a laptop, an old laptop. That's crazy. I could wait half an hour for this to render. It does. Yeah. Look at that. This one even animates. Not only that, it has bloom. You know how long this takes in Maya, right? Turn bloom on, and then you go get dinner. Okay, has everybody done that? If you're having troubles with that, raise your hand. Okay, now we're going to do an object manipulation. Let's use that bucket. I kind of like that bucket. If I grab the bucket, you'll see this little thing come up. Actually, you might have a lot of other things. You might look like this. Does everybody's stuff look like that? These are called gizmos. These are there so that you can visualize things that are not visible, like the camera. There's all kinds of stuff. There's, you know, some lights, like this light. If I click on that light, this is a directional light, right? And this is the camera, right? When I click on the camera, it shows up here. This is the game camera. This is what you're going to see when you run the game. But you can turn this off up here. This little button up here on the upper right, everybody see that? That turns the gizmos off. The other things that are useful, you can turn on and off the grid, and you can use snapping, and we'll talk about snapping in a bit. The other thing that's really useful is if I click something, like let's say I click that bucket. If I hit W, I have the move tool. I can just grab it down here. I can grab that, oops, I can grab it and move it by grabbing one of these. And you'll notice if I come in close here, you'll notice these little patches here. This, if I grab the green one, that means it's going to move along that plane, the XZ plane. So I can move it on that XZ plane. Now, if I want to so if I do now, it's going to stay on the floor, right? So that's kind of handy. I also have this little gizmo up here on the upper right. I can say, let's look at it from the top view. Let's look at it from X. Let's look at it from Z. The other thing that's really useful here is you go, let's say the top view, and I zoom out. It has right here, this button here, top, and this is perspective. If I click on that, I'm now orthographic. This is like how an architect might design a floor plan. Really, really useful for organizing stuff, getting stuff arranged. Okay. So if I hit W, I can move an object around. I hit E, I can rotate that object. And I hit R, I can scale that object. And if I scale it, if I choose the box in the middle, I can scale it equally so it stays proportionate. If I scale it along one of these, I'm going to distort it. Here's the thing to notice though. If I select that, if I look up here, all these game objects have this component. Unity is a component-based system. When you pick something like that, you'll see these components in here. This makes it really, really modular. And for all you coders and actually everybody, you'll be making your own components. You'll be copying and pasting them. You'll be doing all kinds of things. The ones down here are often very different. This is the mesh renderer. It's going to actually allows it to be rendered. You can turn these things off. If I toggle it, it goes off. But I want you right now to pay attention to the transform. The transform is where it is, the position, the rotation, and the scale. And I can come up here and I can say, all right, I'm going to move it in Y up. And I can just click on the letter Y and I can go whoop, up or down. Okay, and I can rotate and I can scale. I can do all the same things here. So you can either use the gizmos inside the scene window or I can do it directly in the transform. I can also just type something in. Right? I can type it in just as you would expect. Really, really useful thing here is this. If I right click on the word transform, I can reset it. This would set it to the origin and it sets it to the origin and it sets the scale to 111. Now it didn't actually set it to the origin, I lied. And that's getting a little complicated. I'm not sure if I want to do that just yet. But it didn't go to the origin because it's a child of this and a child of that. So we're going to talk about parenting in a bit. The idea behind that is that it works probably just the way you would think. I can grab the props and I can move them around. I can move all of them around, right? Oh my God, look, that light's real time. Holy smokes. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. Let's see, there's one more thing I want to show you. So when I select this object, I have a couple of things up here. It's the pivot point. Right now, you notice that it's on the bottom. The pivot point for this object is set to the bottom. So this is especially for the designers. When you make an object, and again, this is being nice to your coders. The coders are trying to figure out where to put something. They want something on the ground. The pivot point's in the middle. It's a pain. They have to figure out, all right, how do I get this on the ground? Right? You think about the pivot points. You talk to your coder. Where should the pivot point be? But most of the time, you're going to figure out where the pivot point should be. It's often not the center of the object. So in this case, it's right there. But sometimes I want to use the pivot point, and sometimes I want to use the center. I can switch it between the center and the pivot point. So let's say I do this, and then I rotate the bucket. So I'm rotating it from the base of it, the pivot point, right? And so now I want to move it. Well, I don't want to move it up. I want to move it along its axis, along its length, right? So there's this other button here which switches between global and local. Right now it's global. Up is always up, right? Local is up relative to the bucket, right? So if I say local, now when I move it, I'm moving it relative to that. And it works for all, not just the move, obviously, right? I can do that. So I want everybody to do this. Rotate the bucket, scale it up, find a nice shot here, and make a screenshot. Command, what is it? Command Shift 4 on a Mac. Make a screenshot. Raise your hand if you need help making a screenshot. And then, once you have your screenshot, I want you to go to the syllabus, go to the week 1 portfolio, and drag it in there. Oh, I should say this. Put your name on it. And this is true for all the stuff you're going to be posting up here. Did I mention that? All right, is that clear? So you want to name it like your name, have it, prefix it with your name, because that way what happens is I do a search. I do a sort, on your name, and I can see all your stuff together, right? Okay. Oh, wait, you can't see what I just did. So in here, you're going to see week one portfolio, but this is, I really want you to do this. This is really important. So for something like this, I'll give you an example. I might be James bucket one dot png. So I want you to use that format. So it always starts with your name, the name that you, doesn't have to be your full name, the name you want to use in class, the name that you put in the spreadsheet. You came late, right? You might have, there's a spreadsheet here. You have, are you looking at the syllabus right now? So I'm waiting to see who's the first person to put one up there. My money's on Gemini. You're an overachiever. Do a know-how on it. We have there is a couple of know-hows on there. See what other people have done. That's a great know-how. Toon shaders are harder than they look. Well, it's a shader. It's the people use the Fresnel for toon shading, but it doesn't look good. There we go. Thomas. How do you spell Congelo? Who's Congelo? How do you pronounce that? So don't sit idle. Do something else. Start moving stuff around, scanning, rotating, drop it in. I want you to spam those folders. Spam it. Just keep doing stuff. Why not? Just try to do something that's maybe a little interesting. Okay, just a couple minutes. Yeah, it's the same. I can't think of what would cause that. I can't think of what would cause that. Raise your hand if you have not posted an image yet. Emily. Okay, let's move on. So there's all kinds of fun things you can do in here. One of the things to notice is that these things are all hierarchical, and they're parented. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But right now, what I want you to do is you come up here and you can save it or not. It's up to you. Probably, maybe you don't want to save it. Maybe you just want to leave the sample the way it was originally. And I want you to create a new scene. So you hit new scene up here or Control N, Command N. And you'll get a dialog that looks like this. So you'll have basic RP, standard RP. And so again, you want the universal render pipeline. That's what we're using in this class. There are other ones, but this is what we're going to focus on. And so the only difference is it tells you down here the description. So it doesn't really matter, actually. So let's just use this one. It'll prompt you to save the other one. I'm going to say don't save. And we'll open up a new scene that looks like this. So this is a blank scene. If you look in the syllabus, you'll see a link to an image. I want you to download this image. It's upinclouds.jpg. I wish I got it from a student, so I don't know who actually did it. Unfortunately, because it's pretty nice. And I want you to, in your assets, under assets, right? This is where you're going to keep all these things organized, right? So we want to drag that into our project, so you need a place for it. So I want you to right click and say create folder. Everybody see that? So in here, in the assets folder down here in the project window, where it says assets over here, this is the contents of that. And when you say right click, create, this is where you're going to create all kinds of stuff. For right now, I just want you to create a folder. Actually, I want you to create a couple. Create a folder for images, and create a folder for materials, and create a folder for models and prefabs. Eventually, you'll have animation, you'll have audio. These are the things that you want to keep yourself organized. You'll already have one for scenes and scripts, settings. But now you can just take that image and you just drag it in. I'm going to use this other image just because I've already done it to the other one. You just drag and drop your image into the images folder. You with me? Yep. Great. Okay, so now I want to change the sky. I really, really hate the default sky. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. I have nightmares about this sky. Please, please do this the first thing every time you start a project. Do something to the sky. I hate looking at that. And also, I'm kind of joking, but on the other hand, it's in terms of a portfolio, if you're sharing in it, you just don't want to be showing the default sky. Okay. So now I'm going to show you something that's kind of interesting. If you go to Windows and you open up rendering lighting, open up that panel and dock that somewhere. And you go to the lightings panel, you'll see up top, you have a bunch of essentially tabs. And if you go to this scene, I think by default, it's on the scene. And then you go to environment, you'll see your sky. This is what defines your sky. And I can put in a different material. And this is the one I don't like, is the default skybox. How much time do we have? Not much. So let's just do this image because I'm going to show you what happens. So if I take, you might think, well, I could just put the image in there, right? So I just grab the image and I want to put it in there. It's like, no, it won't take that. I cannot drag the image and drop it into that material. I need to create a material from it first. So if I go to material and I right click in here, right click in your materials folder and say create material. You will do this 1,000 times between now and December, maybe a couple thousand times. So you create a material and say, whatever you want to call it, new sky. So now in here, I can't drop this in either. Right? If actually I can, it's going to let me do it. That's interesting. It's not the right thing. It's not, what you really need here is a skybox. So if I open up if I click on the material and I look in the inspector, in the materials, you look up here and you'll see stuff up here that says shader. So up here, it says it's a universal render pipeline lit. But if I come down here and I click on it, you'll see an option for skybox. Probably should have started with a simple material. Now that I think about it, it's skybox. And that's for this one, we're just going to say cube map. We're going to choose cube map. So the cool thing about cube map is I can now, it says right here, cube map HDR, and I can drag an image right here. But if I go back to my images, I can't drag that image in there, right? Because it's not a cube map, it's just an image. So here's a really core concept, okay? This is a really typical pipeline. This is the kind of thing you'll be doing every day, all day, over and over and over and over. Get used to it. I go back to so now I'm in my projects. This is my folder, and I click on this image, right? This is the way the image came into this project. And I can change it right here before I even use it. So in this case, I want to just make a simple change. I come up here and I say texture shape, texture type, right? I can look in here. Well, what are these things? Default, 2D, cube, whatever. Well, that's interesting. I noticed that before that slot says, hey, I could take a cube map. That's a hint, right? Well, if I come down here and I say cube, I can turn this thing into a cube map. Unity's going to do that for us. So I hit that button, and then it now wants to be a cube. I'm saying this is a cube, but I have to hit apply. And I hit apply, and it's going to change that into it. Now you have this little cube map icon, right? So why doesn't everybody do that? You've already done it? Okay, good. So now I go back to my material, and I say, what was it called? New sky. New sky. And then I go back to my images, and notice when I go back to images that this stays here. Sometimes you'll have trouble with this thing changing. You can lock it so it won't change. Otherwise, it changes when you select something. But in this case, it's smart and knows that I want to drag something in here. So now I can take that sky. You guys have up in clouds. I have this other one. You can take it and you drag it in here, right? And that's my sky. Now I go back to lighting, and I can take that material, my new sky, and I drag that in to replace that. Oh, so much better. Right? So I can look around and I can see my sky. Yes. Yeah, so the lighting tab is under window, rendering, lighting. Yeah. Raise your hand if you need any help with that. Okay, so here's the cool thing about that. If I go back to the material, I go back to my new sky material and I look at that, I have a few things I can do. I can change the tint. Sorry, the exposure. You can also come up here and add a color. You can, give it a tint, which looks really bad. Typically, you want that to be full white, and then you want to use this. But sometimes you want to change the tint, and then you also can change the rotation. So as always in Unity, there's like 5 ways to do everything. There's lots of different ways of doing the same thing. You will find your own workflow that works for you. For instance, we're going to add an object now. There's several different ways of doing it. This is just one of the ways. I can come up here to game objects, and I can say 3D object cube. Okay, does everybody see that? And that will create a cube. And again, I hit F in here, and I can see it. That's my cube. Oops, you got to name it. I have so many cubes that are named F or W. So let's call this base. All right, let's create another material. So say create material and give this one a name of, say, white. And then you can come down here and make sure that this is all already set to white. And now I can just assign this to that object. I can drag it directly like this in here, or I can do it up in here. Or, again, there's so many ways. I can also select it here, and I can drag it into here. There's 3 ways. All right, so now I want to take this and I can hit reset on the transform on this object. Hit reset, it'll move it to the origin. So now it's centered on the origin. All right. All right, so if you're waiting, just make a few other things. You can come up here, a game object, make a few of these other things. You can make a plane. Right click on transform and hit reset. I can make that white also. Try making a few different materials. All right, so I can turn off that plane. The plane is here. I can just hit delete to delete it. I can also turn it off by just unchecking it right up here. Right? This says whether it's active or not. So right now it's active. Now it's not active. So if I take my cube, it's now 0, 0. It's all zeroed out. It's at the origin. But I want to use the top of it as a base for what we're going to do tomorrow and the next day. So what I can do is I can say, well, how about this? Why don't I set this? I'm going to scale it. I'm going to set this to 20 by 20 by 100, say. Now I have that. So I want to get I want the top of it to be at the origin. So I can just say up here where it says Y, I can say -50. Again, there's other ways to do these things, but that's a fast way. Now I know that I have this base here at the top. And again, I can turn the grid on and off. So I'd like everybody to send me to share a picture of that, where you can see your sky and you can see that you have a base. If you have other stuff on there too, that's fine. For instance, I might want to say 3D object, capsule, and, right. And let's say I want to create another, I can make it gold, I can make another material, and now we have that. I want to make sure that you have a base that's at the origin. The top of the base is at the origin, and I can see your sky. And if you want to throw some other objects in there, that's fine. And just, no, it'd be better if it's like this, so it's an object. Just because I just want you to get used to, a lot of things I do in this class are just, I want you to get a sense of the process, right? Like obviously you could use a plane for this, but I want you to get a sense of, manipulating objects, using the transform, moving stuff around, just get a sense of it. And again, there's other ways to do it, but that works fine. All right, so why don't we call that a day? And I'll show you some stuff that some students have done here before in this class, okay? So here's an example of something that someone did for the first assignment you guys have. Yeah, so notice you'll have, for all of your projects, I'll give you a bumper like this that'll have, fall 2023 on it. And we'll have the TAs. So this was done in the first like 3-4 weeks. Implemented a scoring system. This was the assignment. We taught how to trigger volume. So when he enters the trigger volume, brings up a podium, you click on these buttons and we have a canvas and a UI interface. So it just does some basic things, changes stuff, shows that sort of basic Unity interaction. And so that would be sort of a very typical project for a Unity project. That would be probably for a coder. So then this is a VR project that was done by 2 people. This was done just a year ago. So check this out. This is a really good one.
You have been activated for the investigation of case C9328. Multiple missing persons were last seen entering this unregistered building. Find the missing persons.
And as I recall, they built almost everything. They didn't scavenge much. That's a lot harder than it looks. This is a little more than what I expect on week 6. Neither of them have had any VR experience or Unity experience. It's like an escape room, but it's the opposite. This was so cool in VR. You get it? They pulled the tracker out, and that's why people are going missing in this building, because it gave you instructions about how to become free. I mean, they came up with a pretty good story. And that's what happens when, I think when, coders and artists get together, you can really make magic. And that's really what we try to do in this class. So that I'll show you some final projects tomorrow, maybe, or on Thursday. So that was not a final project. It could have been. It's pretty good. All right. Well, thanks for first class, everybody. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Looking forward to seeing what you guys make. I'll keep talking if you stay here. I'll just keep going. All right. You guys excited? It sound like fun? They freaked out a little? Hope not.